Tyler DeLuca here with new Sooners head coach Brent Venables. And Coach, there's been a lot of talk about on the field and everything, the play itself, but that moment where you step on to Owen Field as the head coach of Oklahoma, what do you expect that to be like?
Okay, well, I do have the Superman play here with us today. So I'm going to give this to you.
All right.
Feel free to pause however you please. The video is ready to play up there.
Okay.
So pre-snap.
So earlier in the fourth quarter, we called the same blitz that I did the Superman play on, and the running back, Brett Robin, the guy I jump over, he basically hits me in the lower region. Let's just say that.
Well, all three of us have talked about Coach Baranczyk so far on the show, but now let's talk to the boss herself. We're joined by Jenny Baranczyk. And Coach, what a win you guys had this past weekend against West Virginia. You told us last week that there's no walk in the park in this insane Big 12 conference, and last week definitely proved that. A double overtime win, what does that do for your team as a whole? Well, the main offseason story for the Oklahoma City Thunder was drafting Chet Holmgren with the number 2 overall pick, but then he was ruled out for the season with an injury. Then before tonight's home opener against the Minnesota Timberwolves, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was ruled out with an injury for the game. And then in the second half, Josh Giddey went back to the locker room with a right ankle sprain. And with those three out, that left Mark Daigneault with the challenge of trying to field the best 5 on the floor. And for Detroit, they're coming off a big win against the Philadelphia 76ers, where Oklahoma State alumni Cade Cunningham dropped 27 points in the victory. They're going to need more of that tonight as he makes his homecoming return to Oklahoma. The game tips off at 7 p.m. on Valley Sports Oklahoma. Kansas has been in top form the last 2 games with 2 16-point wins back-to-back against Miami and Villanova to secure their championship spot. And for the Tar Heels, it has been a run full of highlight games, from upsetting the number 1 seed Baylor Bears, extinguishing St. Peter's fire, to the biggest win in the biggest rivalry in college basketball against Duke. UNC head coach Hubert Davis is making sure his team appreciates the moment, but stays locked in. Number 1 team in the nation. They have the best player in the nation. They have the best coach in the nation. They have Bria Beal, who is one of the best perimeter defenders in the nation. They have some of the best guard play in the nation with Destiny Henderson. You would be a fool to bet against them in postseason tournament. Yeah, I mean, that game was incredible, but let's take it back to a lifelong memory of mine. 2008, 6-year-old Tyler was in awe, seeing the 61-41 victory. Sam Bradford was on his game, throwing for 370 yards and 4 touchdowns. And of course, who can forget the legendary flip into the end zone for a rushing touchdown? I had that flip made into a poster in my childhood bedroom. So when we're talking about Bedlam, I'm always 100% of the time going to talk about Bradford.
It's time for
Wait, Addie. We are in the Halloween season. Halloween was yesterday. So before we vote, I got a little bit of treats for the crowd, making sure that I come correct for the crowd. So before we vote, we'll get these out here. We'll get these. Let's see. If you could describe Norman to me in one word, what would it be?
Community.
Sooner born, Sooner bred, and a Sooner national champion. Norman native Belle Johnson has crimson and cream running through her veins.
So my family has a really strong connection to OU. My parents both graduated from OU. Multiple of my grandparents went to OU. My 2 sisters graduated from OU. And my brother just recently transferred to OU to finish his degree here. So whole family's been here.
And while Belle is now successful at Oklahoma, she doesn't forget being the kid in the crowd.
I grew up watching, some of the OU greats like Megan Ferguson. She was a gymnast here when I was probably in elementary school. And I'd go to every meet and I'd be like the little kid on the edge waiting for her to come give us high fives, And so, obviously getting to be on the team, I didn't know that was even possible for me.
And now that she's on the other side of the coin, it's not lost on her that she is now that source of inspiration.
Now I kind of have a surreal moment after every meet when I see little girls from my club gym, wanting my autograph or high fives or whatever, and thinking that was me. I was that girl in that exact spot at the Lloyd Noble Center. So I always just try and tell those girls it's possible for them, even if it doesn't feel like it.
Now with the season looming, Belle has a message for her own community.
My message for Norman, gymnastics is the coolest sport ever, so you should come watch because it's pretty awesome.